Switzerland, known as the unconquerable country, has a fascinating history. It was only invaded once in its over 300-year history, back in 1798, when it fell under French occupation. Since then, no one, not even Hitler, dared to challenge its sovereignty. But why is that? Well, when the superpowers of Europe expanded and became neighbors, they realized the importance of having a buffer zone between them. And voila, Switzerland became a neutral territory and a buffer zone among the major powers. Despite being located right in the heart of Europe, Switzerland is neither a member of NATO nor the European Union. Remarkably, even during the tumultuous times of World War I and II, while the whole continent was engulfed in flames, Switzerland remained uninvolved. So let me assist you in uncovering the intriguing details about Switzerland, a country that seems to have been protected by mysterious forces. If you'd like to help me out, feel free to subscribe to my channel and like the video. Switzerland was established as a federal state in 1848. Interestingly, despite some of the largest wars in world history occurring after its establishment, Switzerland has never experienced a war within its borders. And yes, it is one of the rare countries that did not participate in the First and Second World Wars. How did they manage to achieve this? Was it because they didn't have a military capable of engaging in warfare and thus adopted neutrality as a principle? In reality, the country's neutral stance seems to stem from its consistently balanced and strong economy. Switzerland has always been a self-sufficient nation. Consequently, during the First and Second World Wars, it signed agreements with the surrounding major powers declaring its neutrality. However, during World War I, Germany violated the neutrality of Belgium, a country that had declared its neutrality. In 1940, during World War II, Nazi Germany, which had occupied neighboring countries of Switzerland, became a significant threat due to historical references. Nevertheless, these two countries never engaged in war. I will explain the reasons for this in detail shortly, but for now, let's talk a bit about Switzerland military. Yes, although Switzerland has not engaged in any wars for many years, the country does have its own military. The Swiss armed forces, consisting of 800,000 soldiers, are responsible for protecting the country against potential military threats from outside. However, it is important to note that Switzerland, being a landlocked country, does not have any navy. Similar to some countries, compulsory military service applies to all men. They are required to serve in the military for 170 days. Men between the ages of 19 and 34 serve in the armed forces, but in exceptional circumstances, this age limit can be extended up to the 50s. Additionally, even after completing their compulsory service, individuals are required to keep their firearms at home and undergo annual refresher courses to maintain their firearms proficiency. Just imagine the kind of army this country with nearly 9 million people can mobilize. Furthermore, all roads, bridges, tunnels, and railways in Switzerland are designed to be destroyed if necessary, as a measure to prevent potential invasions. As I mentioned earlier, Switzerland is known for its neutrality, and this neutrality extends to its military as well. Despite being a member of the United Nations for 19 years, Switzerland does not deploy its forces for warfare or military operations unlike other countries. Therefore, the Swiss armed forces do not engage in armed conflicts in other countries or participate in United Nations peacekeeping forces. Now let me share with you an even more fascinating fact. In Switzerland, there were two referendums held to abolish conscription. The first one took place on November 26, 1989, but the proposal to dismantle the armed forces was not accepted by the people. After a short period following the September 11 attacks, a second referendum was held, and a whopping 77% of the population opposed this change. So even the world's largest neutral armed forces couldn't be abolished thanks to the support of the people. Looking at these events from an economic perspective, as you may know, Switzerland is famous for its banks. During the years of World War II, while many countries were facing economic difficulties, Switzerland became the financial hub for all warring nations. Switzerland, functioning as the central bank of Europe, was turning into an impregnable fortress not only due to its geographical challenges, but also because of the flow of money from dozens of countries. But why didn't other countries attack Switzerland, especially Nazi Germany under Hitler's leadership and French Empire? While it is true that the Nazi government had dealing with Swiss banks, it wasn't the primary factor. The Nazis were engaged in multiple fronts as the war progressed. As I mentioned earlier, they already had good economic relations with Switzerland. Therefore, engaging in conflict with Switzerland, which they believed did not offer any geographical advantage, would have been an additional burden and time consuming for them. And also, there is the issue of Jewish refugees that I believe contributed to the development of bilateral relations between Nazi Germany and Switzerland. In the early years of the war, to demonstrate its neutrality, Switzerland did not accept Jewish citizens fleeing from Germany and other occupied territories into the country. However, later on, despite pressures from other countries, Switzerland changed its stance and accepted Jewish refugees. Nevertheless, they marked the passport of the Jews they accepted with the letter J for Jude, meaning Jewish in German. This action drove the ire of the Jewish community, and Switzerland was criticized not for being truly neutral. Despite their appearance of neutrality, they had partially aligned themselves with Germans. A similar situation occurred with the French as well. Geneva is the second largest city in Switzerland, extending deep into the heart of France. In the 17th, many elites and select groups in France, including the royal family, wanted to keep their money safe. In 1713, the Swiss government banned banks from sharing information about their clients. This was the most significant advantage of Swiss banking: privacy. Thanks to this policy, Switzerland, despite its inefficient land and geography, not only excelled in the field of banking but also aspired to become a wealthy country like France and the United Kingdom. However, in 1932, this neutrality was compromised when two employees working in a Swiss bank were arrested for assisting some individuals in France in evading taxes. This incident understandably unsettled the investments relying on the country's neutrality. As a result, the government enacted the Swiss Banking Act in 1934. The 47 articles of this law were of great importance. Banks would not share their customers' information without their consent or without a criminal complaint, even if government official requested it. If unauthorized information sharing occurred, each official would face a prison sentence of 5 years. Now let's talk about Switzerland's geographical features. Switzerland is one of the highest altitude regions in Central Europe and is surrounded by mountains. The most famous of these mountains are the Alps, which mark its border with Italy. One of the main reasons why this country has never been invaded for centuries is undoubtedly its geographical characteristic. Remember, in order to invade a place or a country, you first need to send your military personnel, tanks, and ammunition to that region. However, doing so in countries with high altitudes and mountainous terrain like Switzerland is quite challenging. Although Nazi Germany had advanced aircraft technologies and caused great difficulties for other countries with its jets, they never attempted in Switzerland because it was not easy for tanks and soldiers to meet their needs in such a terrain. Geneva, Switzerland's second largest city, squarely deep into the heart of France. In the 18th century, many affluent and influential individuals in France, including the royal family, sought to preserve their wealth. In 1713, the Swiss government prohibited banks from sharing information about their clients. These are all claims, but it is said that hidden underground bunkers camouflaged within these mountains existed, where Switzerland stored its money. While civil soldiers occasionally make references to these bunkers on social media, a high-ranking Swiss officer stated that he did not approve of sharing anything that confirms the existence of these facilities. After emphasizing the secrecy of this information, he instructed the deletion of any post mentioning the bunkers. Yes, Switzerland is a country shrouded in mystery in every aspect. Despite being located in the heart of Europe, it gives me a small North Korea vibe. But of course, this thought is not politically motivated, rather due to their extreme level of secrecy. For example, it is said that thousands of shelters and tunnels have been constructed in this country. However, since there has been no sign of war in this region for centuries, I can say that these tunnels and shelters have purposes beyond their initial designs. But in my opinion, this doesn't mean that these shelters will never be used. Switzerland has experienced the First and Second World Wars up close and has always seen itself under threat. And now, of course, these shelters are now used in many areas, ranging from rooms for aging chassis to hotels. But it doesn't imply that Switzerland is not on edge. They live as if they are ready for war at any moment. In fact, if you want to build a house, you are legally required to construct a shelter underneath it where you can seek refuge. However, the laws have changed a bit. Now it's no longer mandatory, but rather you have the option. You can choose to build a nuclear-proof shelter in your basement, or you can gain access to a community shelter by paying a fee. So what is the reason behind this extremism? During the Cold War, Switzerland took the nuclear threat very seriously and began implementing an accelerated program in 1963. Anti-radiation shelters were built to protect everyone in the event of a possible nuclear attack. In this aspect, the Swiss indisputable respectably hold the world record for shelter construction. Their closest competitors are Sweden and Finland, but these two countries, which can accommodate approximately 80% and 70% of their total population, respectively, still lag far behind Switzerland. In Germany, there are shelters only sufficient for 3% of the population. What an amazing country, isn't it? Switzerland is an entirely fascinating country. Despite being in the heart of Europe, it is filled with mysteries. The presence of nuclear shelters, centuries without engaging in warfare, and the influx of the world's wealth into its famous banks are all truly peculiar things. So, do you think Switzerland would still do all of this if it didn't choose to remain neutral? Let's find an answer for this question. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel and like the video, and please share it to help me. See you in the next video and take care of yourself.